Welcome all my Pluto in the 7th house friends. Bless y'all's little hearts. In my opinion, Pluto in the 7th house can be one of the more difficult places to find Pluto in your chart, and I'll tell you exactly why in this video. Now, if you are new to astrology and you need to figure out where Pluto is in your chart, just head over to astro.com, click charts, and type in your birth information. Now, you will have to have your birth time to figure out where your Pluto is in your chart, but after you type in your information, a chart will display and it will let you know exactly what house your Pluto is in. So Pluto is a powerful planet, but what does it exactly represent? Well, Pluto is the planet that deals with transformation, the death and rebirth process, other people's money, taxes, the occult, repression, extremes, manipulation, power and control, taboo topics. And what is the 7th house in astrology? Well, the 7th house is known as the house of partnerships. Now, this can be any type of relationship. This can be a romantic partnership, a business partnership, even a friendship. It is the house of contracts, like marriage contracts or legal contracts. The 7th house is opposite the 1st house. So the 1st house is me, and the 7th house is we. It is what others mirror back to us. Now, the 7th house is ruled by the sign of Libra, and Libra is ruled by Venus, and Venus is the planet of love. So remember, Pluto is the planet farthest away from the sun. It receives the least amount of light, and it is ruled by Scorpio. It can make us go through dark moments of dealing with our shadow side to help transform us and become light. So whatever house Pluto is in shows where we might go through some of our darkest moments, but we have a superpower to overcome the dark moments and transmute the energy to gain back our power. Basically, you learn how to control your Pluto so that it doesn't control you. So what happens when you mix the planet of transformation with a house of committed partnerships? Well, where do I even start? There is a lot to unpack with Pluto in the 7th house. I guess let's go back to your childhood and look at your first example of relationships, which is usually your parents. Now, this isn't for everyone, but when I read a chart of someone with Pluto in the 7th house, I have found that typically when growing up, they had parents that divorced, or parents who were never married, or parents that were on again, off again, or even parents that were still married, but there was some kind of strain, like they shouldn't still be together, but they were still married kind of situation. Parents may have argued or had some type of power dynamic within the relationship. With this placement, it's very possible that the child did not get their needs met and had to act in a slightly manipulated way to get their needs met. So for example, these are the children who may have pushed the envelope in some ways, even if it was just ever so slightly. They may have unconsciously tested a parent by putting them through the ringer at an early age. Someone with this placement learned not to fully trust others, and they are pros at analyzing their environment, and they learned that acting out in extreme ways got the job done, so to speak. They want to strip everything down and get down to the bottom of things, and they may test you to see exactly what you were made out. These are the people that are able to get under your skin because subconsciously they know that people speak the truth when they're angry. So they will do things that make your blood absolutely boil. They know how to push your buttons and get the truth out of you. This is how they extracted the truth out of their environment when they were children. Now, they actually might not see it this way, that they're behaving this way, because to them it's only natural to do this to get your needs met. I feel like people that have Pluto in the first house absorb Pluto qualities and exude Pluto out to the world. But in the opposite house, these people project their Pluto onto others, and that's why it's really hard. So with this placement, it's easy to blame everything on the other person because that's what you're experiencing, them giving you back your Pluto. So what really happens when someone does this is they are giving their power to the other person instead of taking responsibility. They can blame and even become angry at another person. But what is really happening is they are angry with themselves for giving their power away. So basically, these people are projecting Pluto out into the universe as a way to experience their own Pluto, so they can transmute the energy and learn to unconditionally love another. Now, usually with this placement, there was some type of child abuse. This can manifest with any type of abuse. It can be emotional, physical, even sexual. Or some type of tension was there with the parent and the child, maybe a very authoritative parent. Could have even resulted in a death of a family member when you were a child, an important family member that just changed your life afterwards. Or some type of trauma was introduced to you as a child that you carry into adulthood. It's very possible with this placement that as an adult, you act out in certain situations because you weren't able to be a kid. These are the children who felt powerless at some point, and they learned you cannot always trust others. These types of relationships that they had as children can continue on into adulthood. Someone with this placement can feel like they may constantly have relationships with darker energies. They may have romantic relationships that have power struggles, control, manipulation, that push-pull dynamic, sometimes even abuse. They can attract relationships that can be draining or toxic. Now, some point in your life, you will realize that you are pouring your Pluto out on people, and that is what the universe is pouring right back to you. And when these people change their outlook, they will start seeing their reality shifting. When they start giving out unconditional love, they start to receive unconditional love. This is one of the placement who has enough power to get through the fire and to find unconditional love in this lifetime. It first starts within ourselves. When we have it for ourselves, our cup overrunneth, and we can give to others, and we can start manifesting the good parts of Pluto in this life. So with this placement, it's possible that with the abuse you suffered in childhood, it can be hard to reach in and realize your value. This may have literally been beat out of you as a child. But it's important for these people to establish their values and desires independent of a partner. These people can have very scorpionic relationships where there's jealousy and possession and manipulation, control, clinginess, passion, intensity, obsessiveness. They have this feeling that they basically want to merge with a partner so they can get lost in relationships. They are very relationship-oriented people, and they may even seek their identity through a relationship or not feel whole or complete if they are alone and not in a relationship. They can think that the person that they meet is the one, and they could very well plan their lives around the other person in the relationship. Now, it's possible, especially with the Pluto and the Libra generation, to get married early on in life. And they attract people that they can learn from, whether they knowingly do this or not. They usually attract someone that has the energy that they are not embodying, which could be a good thing. Let's say if this person is highly stubborn that has Pluto in the 7th, and you got with someone that was more understanding and compromised. But then it could also be a bad thing because someone with this placement could be a very committed person and attract someone who isn't. Now, with this placement, it is a friend with betrayal. It is very likely that you will experience some type of betrayal in your life. You are a person that is going to have to work through trust issues, and that's not always easy. Now, these people may crave intimacy, but don't always trust that it's gonna work out. So it gets hard to get close to somebody. These are the people that may be on guard at any moment, just waiting for you to mess up or to betray them. They may have a mentality that you will end up doing something and break the trust. It's just a matter of time. Because these people have experienced great losses of trust within people. Now, it's possible for someone with this placement to have a fear of bonding with another person because you actually feel deeply with this placement, even though it may not always visibly show. With Pluto in the 7th house, partnerships serve as a channel to your personal growth and transformation. So always observe and reflect what the other person is trying to teach you about yourself. Until you transform yourself, you are going to keep attracting the same exact type of partners, which can be exhausting. Can also manifest into someone becoming highly avoidant of relationships, okay? So maybe choosing to focus on their self or their health or their career. A relationship may feel heavy to someone with this placement because that's what they usually experience. And they may have experienced something that was draining and they just don't want it anymore. So as the individual gets older, they will learn a certain balance within that manifests outwardly. And they can get themselves into environments where they are a part of a relationship, yet still able to keep their own identity. Now, my one piece of advice, if you know anybody with Pluto in the 7th house, is to never, ever lie to them. I'm serious, okay? They do not like to be lied to. They like getting to the bottom of things, and they could get upset or angry if they were to find out that you are lying to them. Plus, this would break any type of trust that they had for you, and they may never view you the same again. These people can be extremely loyal lovers if you prove to them that you are, but never, ever, ever give them a reason to not trust you. I repeat, never, ever give them a reason to not trust you, okay? Because they would rather hear it from the source than having to hear it from someone else. And if they find out something and they didn't find out from you, they're going to look at this as a breach of trust. And always remember, it is in the back of their mind if you have breached their trust. So I will say the outcome of this placement may be different depending on what Pluto generation you are from. Like if you are from the Pluto and Libra generation, you may have to work through some commitment issues, whereas Pluto and Scorpio is going to have to work through a lot of childhood trauma that's going to be exposed in a relationship. Pluto's a very generational planet, so you're going to see generations dealing with the issues. So now let's look at some celebrities that have Pluto in their 7th house. So Kourtney Kardashian has Pluto in her 7th house. Now, I have never watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians until this year. And if you do keep up with them, then you know how obsessive Kourtney and Travis's relationship is. It is intense and passionate. Now, I don't know his birth chart, but I would say that she is attracted to a very Scorpionic partner. He kind of gives me some type of Scorpio vibes. So he's either going to have placements or aspects that make him very Scorpionic, but I haven't looked at his chart, but I'm sure there's Scorpio in there somewhere. But you can see how Pluto in the 7th is playing out in her life. Travis reflects back to Kourtney what she is putting out. Now, Rhiannon has this placement as well, and in her early relationships with Chris Brown, it was chaotic and even resulted in domestic violence. People with Pluto in the 7th are no strangers to attracting some very chaotic relationships. Whitney Houston has this placement, and you know how chaotic her and Bobby Brown's relationships were. There was addiction, alcoholism, abuse. I mean, in one article I read, they basically said they exasperated each other's addictions. Like the more time they spent together, the more coke Whitney did, the more alcohol Bobby drank. They were exposing each other's Pluto, but the shadow side of Pluto. These relationships get so intense, and they can still be intensely passionate, and there's love there like no other. Always remember with this placement that your relationships aren't going to be perfect, especially right from the get-go. Pluto is the farthest planet away from the sun, and it takes the longest to make a full rotation around the sun. So anything to do with this placement may take a long time to gain all your power back. The lessons can be slow moving but powerful. So what part of the video did you resonate with? Leave me a comment below. I put out astrology videos every Sunday, and right now we are doing a series of Pluto through the houses. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Mwah.